Noli Timere, do not be afraid. St. Matthew in his gospel tells us these are some of the first words that Jesus spoke after he rose from the dead, his first words to his church. And it was also popular with St. John Paul II, one of the first phrases that he spoke after his election as pontiff to the world. Starting out on the path of the priesthood can be a daunting proposition, and to remind those young men still at college age, still as in their teenage years, to not be afraid to respond to the Lord's graces, to be able to respond to the Lord's call, that if he is indeed calling such person to the priesthood, that he also is there to support that individual, support that young man, give him all of the graces and the help that he needs to continue along that path.
All men have a natural vocation to marriage. So we all think about that. That's something that's attractive to all of us. They realize very quickly, if I go to the priesthood, I have to give this up. And at the same time, there's a seduction of the world. For the most part, we find that the young men who apply have the support of their family. It's a difficult thing to get through the seminary if mom and dad aren't right behind you, supporting you through the process.
I think it's an incredibly appropriate phrase to have for a college seminary, because discernment in seminary or to the vocation of the priesthood is an incredibly scary thing, right? It's not an easy thing to pursue at all, because of the fear factor involved with it. There's so much unknown, and there's so much that we're afraid of because of the foreignness of it almost. Because we've been raised in a society that views any vocation that calls you away from a married life or living for yourself essentially as foreign and strange and just weird and will make you unhappy essentially. That's what we want as humans, to be happy. And so when we're faced with something new, we're naturally going to be afraid because we don't know how's this going to turn out.
God actually called me to the priesthood, and he said, leave everything behind and follow me. That's basically the famous quote that I would take from this calling. And it really applied to me because Jesus always asks you to pick up your cross, and that's how he called his apostles. So I was really, really honored in that sense, and so joyful, because it was not easy, because I always wanted a family, a wife and kids, and I was kind of going for this direction, had a girlfriend at the time also. But what I realized was that a spiritual family is even more important.
I've heard the analogy, if you're made to be a toaster and you want to be a refrigerator, that doesn't work. It's the same way with vocations. If you're made to be a priest and you get married, or you're made to be married and you become a priest, you may, to an extent, be happy, but you won't be fully content because you're not fulfilling what God made you to do.
God's called you to seminary for a reason, and you really have to enter in without any sort of qualm. You have to dive in completely and entirely, because if you're lukewarm, it's not going to work for you.